So let's set the record straight on a few things. First off, the party of insurrection has zero credibility. Zero credibility when it comes to protecting law enforcement officers. It was a Republican president who incited the January 6th insurrection and coup attempt because he refused to accept that he lost the 2020 election. It was Republican politicians who enabled January 6th by peddling lies about the election.
Here we go, because that clip perfectly captures everything dysfunctional about Washington in just a few seconds. You're called into a hearing to discuss supporting local police. Simple, direct, no drama required. And what's the squad's first move? They swerve off topic, dodge the issue, and spin the conversation into something completely unrelated. We're about to watch the full exchange between Cori Bush and Mike Johnson, and I want you to really listen. One side unleashes a wild personal attack. The other responds with steady, measured facts. It's a masterclass in the difference between political theater and actual leadership.
Thank you. St. Louis and I are here today in support of genuine community safety and in opposition to hollow, hypocritical attempts to distract from policies that make our communities less safe. That's exactly what this resolution is. It's an empty and desperate ploy by Republicans to avoid responsibility for policies they support that are getting people killed in St. Louis and across this country. So let's set the record straight on a few things. First off, the party of insurrection has zero credibility. Zero credibility when it comes to protecting law enforcement officers. It was a Republican president who incited the January 6th insurrection and coup attempt because he refused to accept that he lost the 2020 election. It was Republican politicians who enabled January 6th by peddling lies about the election. And it was a mob who supported these Republicans that stormed the Capitol and violently assaulted law enforcement officers. If Republicans cared about violence against law enforcement, they would be marking up a resolution condemning themselves. But the fact is that Republicans don't care about violence against law enforcement, and they really don't care about law enforcement at all. They will support any number of abuses that law enforcement inflicts on communities like St. Louis. But as soon as a law enforcement agency takes a single step towards holding them and their cult leader, Donald Trump, responsible for their criminal behavior, that agency becomes public enemy number one. So Republicans don't care about law enforcement. They support mass incarceration for Black and brown communities and freedom from accountability for themselves. And it is sickening to hear Republican politicians talk about public safety while they contribute to the crisis of violence in this country. As I have pointed out many times in this committee, the states with the weakest gun laws, like my own in Missouri, have Republican legislatures and governors and the highest rates of gun violence in our country. Republicans also take every opportunity they get to spread fear and distrust in our communities. These moral and policy failures have resulted in firearms flooding municipalities that are unable to override those state-level policies, and an American public that is on a hair trigger and primed for violence. So let's get it straight. Republicans are the arsonists, not the firefighters. They don't get to enable violent insurrection and rampant gun violence and police brutality and then show up and pretend like we should just listen to anything they say about policing and public safety. It is a farce, and it's a distraction from policies that would actually save lives. Those policies do not invest in violence. They invest in communities. They recognize that we will never incarcerate ourselves to safety. They will support non-police first responders, mental health and counseling resources, community-based employment programs, community violence prevention and interruption programs, after-school programs, substance use treatment programs, public health and other wraparound services, affordable food and housing, more parks and green spaces, and re-entry programs. That's just to name a few. So that's exactly why I introduced the People's Response Act, which would establish a division of community safety within the Department of Health and Human Services to research and fund evidence-based strategies that are proven to prevent violence and effectively manage crisis situations. So unlike these Fox News talking points, the PRA is a real proposal with real solutions that would save lives in St. Louis and nationwide. And it's not only this proposal. There are proposals that adopt a community-based approach to public safety. Many of my Democratic colleagues have introduced proposals that would break the cycle of violence, invest in mental health resources, support counselors, not criminalization, ensure housing for all, and support other non-carceral interventions that would make a material difference in people's lives. But we're not here today to consider real solutions that will make people's lives better. We're here as a distraction from the sad truth that dangerous MAGA Republican policies make us less safe. They deprive us of basic investments that would move us closer to a genuine community safety. And at the end of the day, Republicans refuse to consider those investments because Republicans are not seeking solutions to the problem.
Gentlelady's time.
They are the problem.
Gentleman from New Jersey yields to the gentleman from Louisiana.
I thank the gentleman from New Jersey. I want to welcome Ms. Bush to the committee. Did she leave already? Oh, is she still here? That's unfortunate. I was going to point out to her a couple of ironies. She came to lecture us. She was here for 5 minutes and 3 seconds. I appreciate her time investment. She came to lecture us about, quote, avoiding responsibility. We've had 4 full committee markups. She has not attended 3 of the 4. I'm not sure today her 5 minutes counts as an attendance, but let's say she's made 2 of them now. I was going to ask her if she's still in favor of defunding the police because we have her on record more times than I can count.
What we just watched was a textbook case of political gaslighting followed by a clean, methodical takedown. Cori Bush takes the microphone, and instead of addressing a straightforward resolution supporting local police and rejecting the defund movement, she launches into an unrelated rant, dodging the policy entirely and attacking Republicans as the party of insurrection. It's the oldest diversion tactic. With no defense for her own radical stance, she tosses a verbal smoke bomb and hopes everyone forgets why the hearing exists. She accuses those supporting law enforcement of not caring about police, while she, who openly championed defunding and abolishing them, positions herself as the voice of community safety. She touts her People's Response Act, which is essentially the same failed philosophy of sending social workers into dangerous situations and calling it public safety. Then comes the telling moment. She hurls accusations, labels her colleagues insurrectionists, and promptly walks out. No defense, no debate, just a political hit and run. That's when Mike Johnson steps in and handles the moment like an adult. No shouting, no theatrics, just facts. He notes that the person who attacked the room didn't even stay to hear a response. Then, he does what she feared most. He brings receipts. He quotes her own tweets and interviews where she proudly declared her commitment to defunding police, exposing the contradiction between her rhetoric and her denial. He points out the harsh reality that her own city, St. Louis, is drowning in violent crime, worsened by the very policies she pushes. Johnson drags the discussion back to the actual issue she tried to evade, the dangerous idea that weakening law enforcement somehow creates safer neighborhoods. What we see is a familiar pattern, one side using slogans, accusations, and emotional misdirection before fleeing the scene, and the other grounding the debate in facts, accountability, and public safety. Let me know what you think in the comments because this one was something.